This is a trailer for the webinar which took place in July 2017 in partnership with the International Association of Facilitators in India. It was an hour and a half, and the content which I presented was probably about 45 minutes or an hour of that, including questions and answers and a case study and so on. I did it in partnership with Martin Gilbraith and also Sunny Walker, who was the technical lifeguard. Martin and I were both in London. Sunny was 8 hours away from London and 12.5 hours away from India, where most of the participants were listening in and participating from. I honour all the people I've learnt from and have co-facilitated with over the many years, including Richard Chapman, who you see here when we facilitated for the UN in Qatar in 2012. So the structure was, we said, when are 4 hands better than 2, forms, joys and sorrows. So to start with, we were saying, well, you do co-facilitation if it's going to be easier for the client. Maybe there's a large group, maybe it's complex, maybe there's a long process, or maybe you just decide, as indeed Martin and I did, that one of us would lead on the content, the other one would lead on the process, and indeed you may just prefer to do it that way. You like working with other people, as indeed I do. So the forms of co-facilitation, there are many. There might be a situation, point number 6 here, where there is a lead facilitator and somebody else is there very explicitly in a learning capacity. You may be in a position where there is a primary and a secondary facilitator throughout. I did that once. I was a secondary facilitator for a whole week. Somebody else led the whole thing. Richard and I have been in tandem. That is, sometimes I'm on the front of the bike, sometimes he's been on front of the bike. So that may work. There may be a contractor, a subcontractor relationship. You may indeed have an external and an internal facilitator. Indeed, the first time that I facilitated for the UN in 2002, that's exactly what happened, because they wanted someone also who knew the internal dynamics, which at that point I didn't. So the joys, well, there are lots of joys. One is it's a blind spots buster. You will have blind spots as a facilitator, and it's quite possible for somebody else to point those out, and you may not see them, but they will. You may want to deepen your relationship with your co-facilitator partner, and also to play a 12-string guitar, not a 6-string guitar. You just get a much richer tone. There may be times when you think you might get stuck and you want someone who you can go to and say, what on earth is happening? And you can think that through with that other person. Maybe if it's a long event, you may just want to get some rest and have someone facing the group when you're not. There are sorrows. There are certainly sorrows. It's another relationship to take care of and to work with, and there may be things which, when you're not facilitating, are just minor irritations you don't even notice. When you're working with a group, those things can become quite substantial. Sometimes a client may think, oh God, are we so complex that we need 2 people, not 1? So they may wonder about that. And there may be financial aspects as well, with 2 people working for a client rather than 1. The event which Richard and I facilitated in Qatar was a 1-day event. It started with 140 people. It certainly needed 2 people. It was highly complex, highly charged, and we learned a lot from that, including some of our personal interests and ways of working, and it certainly deepened our relationship. This is we wrote about this in the global flip chart of the IAF, International Association of Facilitators, and the link to that will be at the end of this brief trailer. There are some things which you really have to do, and you really choose it quite consciously that you wish to co-facilitate, that you have calculated that the joys outweigh the likely sorrows. You will, for example, always make sure that it's clear to the group what the relationship between you is. If there is a lead facilitator or a secondary facilitator, always be sure who's in front of the group, who's got their hand on the driving wheel at any one time. No, you don't have 4 hands on the driving wheel, you have 2, but you can alternate who has those 2 hands on the driving wheel. And you just notice the projections and maybe some power games that start going on, or indeed what you're reflecting in your relationship that's actually going on in the group, and also celebrate your skills and theirs. So watch out for those things, and as you do so, you will discover there are enormous rewards that come along with those challenges, and there are enormous benefits of co-facilitation, as indeed Martin and I, together with Sunny, found when we did this webinar in July. So take a look. The link is on the screen now.